We continue now with our Spotlight series with J. Daniel Pluff, where we highlight businesses and people doing something special in our area. The Central New York Regional Market traces its origins to the 1930s. The facility is easy to take for granted, but its longevity and growth cannot be ignored. As a source for local fresh produce along with arts and crafts, the market remains a busy gathering place with large weekend crowds all year long. But recent concerns regarding the market's finances and fund management were brought to light with a scathing report from the New York State's Comptroller's office. Now the market looks to expand and improve with more vendors, an improved look, and all new ideas for entertainment. On the Money's J. Daniel Pluff met with Bill Fisher, the new Chief Executive Officer, who appeared both upbeat and ready for change.
Let's talk a little bit about history, where we are. So 1938, I mean, this has been around. Right, the New Deal, right?
Yes.
I mean, this has been around
the
a while.
Progress Administration built it, so these sheds, you can see photos, and there's some changes behind the commission houses where we have our distributors.
Same location,
there used to be trains coming in there, so the trains don't come in anymore. Exact same location.
Do you feel comfortable that this location, which has been here now for, close to 90 years, this is still the best spot? I mean,
yes,
it is.
It's a great location. Look, you got the baseball stadium right over there. People drive by that all the time. Destiny is right across the street. We're very close to the Inner Harbor, which is about to have a huge investment in the aquarium. We're not far from the Loop the Lake Trail, right over there on Onondaga Lake. So this is absolutely a fantastic place for this market.
So let's get some of the troubles out of the way first. There was a report issued, I understand, New York State Comptroller's office citing possibly some fund management issues. Was it a case of maybe just wasn't transparent, or was there anything wrongdoing that you've discovered?
So there's a book by Ernest Hemingway, Sun Also Rises, and one of the characters asks the other character, how did you go bankrupt? And he answers, I went bankrupt in two ways. First gradually, and then suddenly. And that's what happened here. There was always property that was leased out to folks that either built their own buildings or paid rent on the buildings. There were always a lot of farmers doing things here and paying to use the stalls. So the gradual part of the unwinding was they weren't putting money back into the farmer sheds and the paving and all the other things that you see around us.
Right.
The more immediate thing was they made some ill-advised acquisitions, including a warehouse right over there. It's a 50,000 square foot warehouse. They paid $2.3 million for it. At the time, it was a variable rate, 2.75%, and they had a couple tenants. The tenants have since moved out, so it's vacant. And the interest rates have since gone from 2.75 to 8.25. So you're carrying a lot of debt service on a property that's vacant. So that was the sudden part of the...
And I like, that's actually, it's a great analogy because, to my knowledge, we hadn't heard of any issues here. All of a sudden it was front page news. And I want to ask, what was job one? Obviously, you found your office, found the men's room, whatever, but what was the first thing you had to tackle?
So the first thing I had to tackle was to sit down with the staff and figure out who was doing what. And the really good news was the staff is excellent. They're very well trained, they're young, enthusiastic. They run a great market on Saturdays for the farmers. There's a flea market on Sunday that is thriving. We also have a Thursday market, and we can build from here. They perhaps didn't have the right coaching or the right encouragement. Maybe some of the ideas that they had were overlooked. So looking at what they had already thought of and maybe focusing on some of the things that we could do with the resources we have left might have been job one. Job two was really looking at the finances and trying to figure out how do we turn this around? How do we fill some of the vacant spaces? What do we do with that warehouse? How do we go and find some monies that have already been appropriated in the state budget?
Sure.
And the state comptroller mentioned there was a $2 million grant that Assemblyman Magnorelli had. So one of the first things I did a week in was sit down with Assemblyman Magnorelli and his chief of staff and say, where is this appropriation? Is it still there? The good news is it's still there. The bad news is it comes with strings attached. You have to put it into capital investments that have a useful life of 10 years or more. But there's plenty of those types of things we can do. And then when you have an investment that gets made, you start to generate income.
It's a lot, but it looks like you're getting your hands around it. Did you speak to the vendors as well?
They've given us a lot of advice and thoughts. A lot of them have family farms that have been selling here as producers for 30 or 40 years. So they wanted to hear from me and from the staff that we're not going anywhere.
Yep.
They wanted to hear that we were going to be making some changes. They also wanted to hear that we were going to fill in the potholes. So on Thursday, one of our staff members and her assistant walks around and identifies the potholes that need to be filled. And on Friday, we've got a contractor that comes in and fills those potholes every morning.
Yeah, sounds silly, but that's important.
Very
right?
important.
Yeah. If you're doing special projects like filling potholes or whatever, you're going to need capital for that somehow.
So we have to generate enough money off of the rents that we charge to pay for those potholes to be filled and to pay for the lights to be replaced when they no longer work.
What's the running cost here? What's the budget? How much does it cost to keep this place running?
$2 million a year, give or take. So there's two sources of operating revenues. One are the farmers and the other vendors that are selling on our markets, and they can take out a license for the entire grower season, for the entire year, and those license fees are the core revenue from these farmer sheds.
To offset all the expenses.
You also have daily fees. So if someone wants to use a stall just this coming Saturday, that might be $80 for the day. So those fees that we get from our sheds are probably half of our revenue. The other half is from the real estate that we have. So Wendy's is a tenant, Burn Dairy is a tenant, Ginta Produce is a tenant, Russo Produce is a tenant. All these tenants are either leasing land from us or buildings from us.
If we looked at, say, a year like 23, 24, or projecting 25, what are the sales here? How much do we sell?
So we don't keep track of what the farmers sell. They don't report to us. It's certainly in the millions and millions of dollars.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I saw a report somewhere. It was quite a large number, and I thought, well, gee, that's got to be quite an economic impact, which is what we're always looking for, right? This place makes an impact on Central New York economy.
That's absolutely right. We have close to 1,000 parking spaces, and by 7:15 on Saturday, they're full. And those folks are here for an hour, hour and a half. When they leave, there's a car to take their place immediately.
The place is popular on Saturdays, to say the least. But you have a lot of competition. I mean, just the grocery stores in our area. I mean, look at Wegmans. I mean, we take Wegmans for granted. It's quite a store. Why do you think people are still coming here for produce they can buy at these stores?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is that the value is fantastic. You've all seen, if you've shopped, that your prices in Wegmans, as great as they are, those you're paying sometimes 20 or 30% more for the same tomatoes or the same produce. So coming here and looking for bargains is certainly something people are interested in doing. There's a lot of processed food, and we all are aware that that's not the best thing for our health. There's not processed food here. There's fresh grown food that you can take back to your table.
I'm not sure it falls to you, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there a way the regional market can get some of this product, some of this produce to parts of the city that maybe go without?
What used to be called food stamps are now called SNAP benefits, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So SNAP benefits are now on plastic cards. Not all our farmers take those cards, so we run a currency system. You can come down here with your EBT cards and come over to our Welcome Center on Sundays, or come to the F Shed on Saturdays, and you can convert your EBT benefits into our dollar tokens.
That's big.
You can then take the dollar tokens out and spend them here. What's better than that, Dan, is that the state matches the first $50 every time you're exchanging tokens. So they give you coupons. So for $50 of EBT benefits, you can get $100 of buying power thanks to New York State matching the federal program, which is the SNAP benefits.
Let's talk a little bit about future then, down the road. What changes do you see coming so far since you've been here? What's going to look different here down the road?
One of the things that we're looking at right now is other markets, like the East Market in Detroit, that have really revitalized themselves with the unique mix that we have. Some of these markets are strictly retail, which is what we talked about mainly. Others are more wholesale in nature. We're a hybrid that has the retail and the wholesale. So what's happening in the wholesale food business? What's happening in food production? What's happening with cold storage? The county and the state economic development arm just awarded a contract to a consulting firm. They've got a team of experts that have helped revitalize these types of public markets around the country. I think you're going to see more green space. I think you're going to see more flowers. I think you're going to see a more comfortable.
Well, that, if I may, I mean, that would be good, because it is a little bit macadam.
There's a lot of asphalt, a lot of macadam.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be kind of neat just visually, right?
No doubt.
Did I read that there's a proposal out there for some type of a large food pavilion, or not a food court, but something of that nature?
You did, yes. The previous administration here at the Regional Market Authority and the staff was doing a lot of brainstorming around what they saw. So they were doing some really smart things like traveling to other markets. So a lot of these things that you see at the Essex Market in Baltimore or the Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia, those kinds of ideas are things that we can bring here. And the staff had already been thinking about it, they just didn't have the funding for it. So if we can kind of pull together a very cohesive plan, present it to the elected officials late this year, early next year, I think there's going to be very much a readiness and a willingness to fund some of those ideas.
I've been to some of the, Philadelphia has a big, and it's a place to go.
The Reading Terminal, isn't that amazing?
It's a place to go, and this could be that. Not that it's bad, but could be even better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your enthusiasm and all that, but as you look down the road, what do you see as hurdles? What are the challenges? What are the things that say, these are going to be problems for us?
So the infrastructure here is very dated.
And that's not cheap to fix.
It's not cheap to fix. And things that are under the ground are not very sexy, but you still need to replace them.
Any other events that would be maybe non-produce oriented or something different happening here, Bill?
So we're looking at doing festivals perhaps once a month from May to November next year. We may be able to pull one or two off this year, perhaps around Halloween. So the idea would be have a theme like pumpkins, let's say, and bring in live bands, maybe bring in some artists.
Bring in some new people.
Bring in some new people.
Okay.
Yeah, so look for some announcements around monthly festivals, hopefully beginning this fall and being a regular feature in 2025.